This conference will now be recorded.
So we'll know about what is Linux first of all. And here I believe that everybody is aware of Linux, and for them it's going to be the repetitive. And some of you are new here, so probably it will be useful for you that to understand what is Linux and what are the different components of it. So Linux, it's an open source operating system. And the way we call Windows as an operating system, Linux is also an operating system, which has several components like scheduler, process management, memory management, and several other things which normal operating system used to have. But yes, Windows has its own stack and Linux has its own stack. So both are different operating system, which has lots of differences in it. And yep, Linux consists of bootloader, kernel, several software to support a GUI package management, managing hardware and their functionality, including security and many more. So when I say bootloader, it means like which is going to help in booting the Linux kernel. When I say kernel, it means uh, software which is going to hold control or which is going to the core part of your Linux. And in that kernel only all the components will be there. Let's say memory management you need, or let's say your process management, your scheduler, your bootloader, all the things will be part of your kernel only. And several software to support GUI packages are like what all we are going to use for now, or maybe for this whole training is going to be a non-GUI based server. But yes, we'll have options. We'll see like for which option we are going for a GUI based package management system, or how we are proceeding. We'll see that. But in starting phase, we'll proceed with installation which doesn't have GUI, and we will and managing software and their functionality, including security and many more. It means like we can install software, we can update software, we can remove the software, and through the software we can control some of the hardwares. All those things is included in Linux. And when I say proprietary, it means some of the Linux are open source, but some of the Linux are proprietary as well. To purchase, you need to get some license from the vendors to purchase those things. Sorry, to use those operating system. Let's say Red Hat. In Red Hat itself, there are some of enterprise operating system or enterprise version, or I can say rhel. It's completely enterprise only. There is no freeware any version available in the rhel. But yes, for CentOS there are some enterprise version available, and there are some freeware version available. In enterprise, they do support several things. They do support if any new things are coming, which is differ from the open source Linux. So this is what the basic of Linux, like what is it and the basic components of it. Next is Linux distribution. You might have heard like Ubuntu is a Linux distribution, CentOS is a Linux distribution, and rhel is a Linux distribution. Distribution is like a branch of Linux. Linux do have several branch, and I can call some of the branches are like Debian based branch, RPM based branch, and Arch Linux. So there are several branches, and based on one branch, one distribution follows everything. So let's say if I say Debian-based branch, Ubuntu is going to be the Debian-based branch. Linux Mint is another distribution which is based out of Linux, which is based out of Debian-based branch. So several other things are there. Let's say if I'm taking an example of RPM, I can say that rhel is an RPM-based distribution, and CentOS is an RPM-based distribution, and several other are existing there. We'll see the list. You can copy and paste this link. My screen is visible again. I hope, yes. So this is the Linux distribution what I was talking about. Here they shows about Ubuntu, and I came here to show you this list actually. This is a list of existing operating system in the world based out of Linux. You can see it's starting from 1992. Slackware is another distribution, and out of that, SLS, MNIS, Stampede, Vector Linux, all these things you can see. It's all Slackware based Linux system. I'm just zooming out now. So you can also open that particular link and then you can go ahead and look at that. What it says. This is the Debian based. You will be able to find out somewhere Ubuntu, Linux Mint, and all the distributions. You can see that. You can see the year also when a particular distribution came or released. All these things you can see. Red Hat you can see here. This is the Red Hat based all the Linux.
So here distribution means the types or the upgradation of the Linux.
No, it's not like upgradation of the Linux. It's about distribution means it's about taking the core of the
Subparts.
no, taking the core of the particular operating system and
Mm-hmm.
modify it according to the requirement and publish it. So
Okay.
something will be different in one operating system than the other. Let's say UI also, or network management, or the way they work. Anything can be different.
Uh,
It's not sure. Yeah,
okay.
but yes, but
Means
the core part.
customization.
Yeah, correct.
We
That's a
can say
correct word you can say.
customization. Okay.
Yeah. Xerox you can see, and out of that SUSE Linux comes, and we do have all this out of SUSE Linux. You can see that. So there are lots of, you might heard some of it, and you might have worked on some of it. You can see out of Debian, this is the Ubuntu, and out of Ubuntu you can see all these are coming out of Ubuntu only. When you use most of you, if somebody has used Linux, might have used most of the time Ubuntu only, and you can install Debian as well, and you can see the difference. There will not be much difference in installing the package, doing the work, but yes, what Ubuntu wanted to do, the customization on the top of Debian, they have done, and it is pretty well appreciated by most of the people as well, since it's very much user friendly and the support is available in most of the as compared to most of the other Linux operating system. The support is very well for the Ubuntu. That's another reason for worldwide Ubuntu is getting appreciated and used as a desktop Linux. So my only purpose to bring you here is to look at the uh, number of Linux available in the world, and probably if you need, you can go ahead and look at the dates as well and the years if it requires you to look at that. So that's what about the Linux distribution. And one distribution is Arch Linux, and in that that assignment will also come into the picture maybe after a few weeks. And I'm talking about that is I'll tell the assignment to install the Arch Linux from scratch into your either in a virtual machine or in a desktop wherever you feel free. So the reason for that is Arch Linux doesn't have a single click installation like the other operating system are having. So you are required to understand the components, what it has, and you are required to install each and every component one by one and set up it and then proceed further. And the purpose for that exercise is like you'll have a good knowledge or good amount of knowledge of the different components what you are going to work with, or probably the different components of the operating system, so that if you hit any problem, you can better debug it by saying that, hey, I am facing the issue in this part, and probably you can debug that particular further. But before that, you need to understand what that part is. So to get to know about that part, you have to go through that particular process. So that's one bare purpose of that particular Arch Linux installation. We'll see that in near future. Anybody has any doubt in last two slide? I mean, last slide and this slide. Generally, I don't. Yeah,
No.
somebody trying to. Okay, thank you. So generally, I don't give things with the slides. So what I do is because slide, if I'm going to prepare a slide, it will be my opinion and my thoughts the way I wanted to go. But I believe that if I'm going to give something somebody, it should be more over generic. So what I do is I go to Google and search for the link, and I read 4 to 5 blocks, and out of that, whatever is good, I feel I paste that particular link to go to everybody. And if anyone else is finding a good link, good blog, you people can follow. There is no harm in that. But yes, before following, you should know, you should understand what the particular person is doing and what they are trying to achieve. Because ultimately, if I'm not here, you are going to do the same thing for wherever you are going to get stuck in your day-to-day life. Like you're going to Google it, or you are going to understand through the logs what is happening and trying to resolve the issues. So we'll try the same procedure here as well. So let's say that what is inside the Linux. Inside the Linux, the different components we have studied just a few minutes back. And on the top of that, I can add that everything Linux is a file. When I say bootloader, that's also a file. When I say device, that's also is represented as a file inside a Linux. Like whenever you are inserting a USB pen drive, everybody can see that there is a window opening when I insert a USB pen drive, and in that we can read or write the data. But ultimately, down the line, kernel is going to read the device and represent that particular device as a file, and that file is going to be read and write, and that's what uh, the browser or the folder explorer or the file explorer, whatever you are going to open, that's going to open that particular file, and through that window you're going to read and write inside your device. So whatever it's a bootloader, it's a kernel, or it's a device driver, or it's any management part, memory management, everything is a file. So the folder structure for Linux will go ahead, but before that, I want everybody to download the two softwares and install it, and post that we'll proceed further. Like to get to know about the folder structure and the folder reward overview, what the particular folder is present, what the particular folder consists of, all those things we'll see further from there. So the two softwares, let me get the link and paste it for you. This is a link to VirtualBox. If somebody is using uh, host machine as a Windows, you can download Windows host. If you're using host machine as a Linux, you should go ahead and choose the Linux distribution in that particular page. And then further you can download. That's the one thing. This is another link to download the CentOS, and the name of the particular ISO you are supposed to download is this one, CentOS 7 x86 underscore 64 DVD. So let me briefly give the introduction. What are all these two softwares which I wanted you to download and proceed with the installation? The first is VirtualBox, which is nothing but a virtualization software which gives you a platform to virtualize your hardware and give you a window to install and operate a different operating system by sitting on a single operating system, either it's Windows or Linux. So let's say an example that you are having Windows and you want several other operating systems to get installed on the top of Windows. So for that you are required to install a virtualization software. And that virtualization software can be either your VirtualBox, or it can be your VMware, or it can be any other solution in the market. So the main purpose of all these are providing a virtualization for you. So whenever your operating system comes up, it's going to use, it is going to require all the things like CPU, RAM, hard disk. So it needs all the basic components. So the virtual machine is going to virtualize your hardware so that another operating system can understand that, hey, this is the new hardware for me. I need to use this and play with it and install whatever components of an operating system is there. I need to install on this hard disk. So separate things we can create, separate space, or separate motherboard, I can say. Motherboard itself we can create for one particular operating system. So that's the basic use of VirtualBox or any virtualization software. And after installing the virtualization software, we are required to install an operating system on the top of that software. So for that, we will use CentOS. And for installation, we need an ISO image, which helps us in installing an operating system. So that's the second software you are required to download from the link. And when we'll have ISO, we are going to install the CentOS 7, and then further we'll see how we are going to install CentOS 7 in GUI mode or in command line mode, and then what all different components are available when we go ahead for the installation of CentOS 7. So I want everybody to give a try installing VirtualBox, and I'm sure that you will hit a issue, and then I believe I can proceed further to resolve the issues and to give a presentation how the installation works of virtual machine and ISO as well. So let me stop the recording.